September 2nd, 1944. Dawn breaks over Palau, Western Pacific. Lieutenant Commander Eugene Fluckey stands in the conning tower of USS Barb, watching 15 American pilots bob in the water 800 yards from shore. Japanese artillery positions line the cliffs. Machine gun nests dot the beach. The enemy has range. The enemy has angles. And Fluckey's submarine, designed to hide underwater, built for stealth, armored like wet cardboard, is about to surface in a shooting gallery. The math is simple. A submarine on the surface moves at 18 knots maximum. Japanese coastal guns fire 120mm shells at 2,800 feet per second. Flight time from cliff to submarine, roughly 3 seconds. Reaction time to dive, 45 seconds minimum. In those 45 seconds, Barb will be a stationary target the size of a city bus, unable to maneuver, unable to defend itself, unable to do anything except absorb incoming fire while its 80-man crew waits to see if the next shell punches through the pressure hull. Submarines don't do rescue missions in hostile harbors. That's the rule. The survival rate for subs caught on the surface within artillery range is 12%. Fluckey has 15 drowning pilots, 80 submariners under his command, and 1 radio message from command. Your discretion, which means save them if you can. We won't court-martial you if you don't. But Fluckey is about to rewrite the manual on submarine warfare, because in the next 8 minutes he's going to surface his boat under direct fire, execute a pickup pattern that doesn't exist in any training manual, and extract all 15 pilots without losing a single man. He'll do this by treating his submarine like a speedboat, his crew like a NASCAR pit team, and Japanese artillery like a problem in geometry. The advantage? Fluckey has already sunk more enemy tonnage than any submarine commander in the Pacific, and he's just getting started. His full name is Eugene Bennett Fluckey, born October 5th, 1913 in Washington, D.C. His father was a civil engineer who taught him one rule: every problem has a solution if you're willing to ignore the rules. At age 8, Fluckey built a raft to cross the Potomac. It sank. He built another. It sank. He built a third. It floated. That was always his nature. Failure didn't mean stop. It meant redesign. But to understand how he pulled off the impossible that morning, you need to know what made him different from every other submarine commander in the U.S. Navy. June 1918. Fluckey was 4 years old when he watched his first submarine demonstration at the Navy Yard in Washington. The officer giving the tour asked if anyone wanted to see inside. Every adult stepped back. Fluckey walked forward. "Why are you shaped like a fish?" he asked. The officer smiled. "Because fish don't fight the water, they use it." That answer stayed with him for 20 years. Fast forward to June 1935, Annapolis graduation. Fluckey finished 94th in his class of 441, not top tier, not bottom feeders. Solidly unremarkable. But his fitness reports noted something unusual: displays initiative bordering on insubordination, follows orders precisely until he finds a better way. That's officer code for, this guy's either going to revolutionize something or get court-martialed. He chose surface ships first, destroyers, the cruisers, standard career path. But in 1938, he requested submarine school. His commanding officer asked why. Fluckey said, "Because submarines fight alone. No admirals watching, no one to ask permission." The Navy approved his transfer, probably because they recognized a man temperamentally unsuited for taking orders from anyone closer than 3,000 miles away. December 1941. Pearl Harbor burns. Fluckey is assigned to USS Bonita, an S-class submarine so old its toilets still flush outward. On his third patrol, February 1942, Bonita encounters a Japanese destroyer off Truk. Standard doctrine: dive deep, go silent, pray they pass. Fluckey proposes the opposite. What if we surface behind them at night? They'll never expect a submarine to chase them. His captain vetoes it. Too risky. But Fluckey files the idea away. But sometimes the best tactic is the one nobody's stupid enough to try. By mid-1943, Fluckey has completed 8 war patrols. His record is solid but not spectacular. 3 confirmed kills, 8,000 tons sunk. He's competent, he's careful. He's exactly the kind of submarine officer who will survive the war with a respectable record and 0 headlines. Then, in April 1943, the Navy makes him executive officer of USS Barb under Commander John Waterman. This changes everything. July 23, 1943, East China Sea. Barb is stalking a Japanese convoy, 6 freighters, 2 destroyers, perfect geometry. Waterman sets up a textbook approach. Submerged attack? Fire 4 torpedoes, dive deep, slip away. Standard playbook. Then 1 torpedo misfires. The shot pattern breaks. The destroyers turn toward them. Fluckey watches from the plotting table as the solution falls apart. Waterman orders emergency dive to 400 feet. But Fluckey sees something else. If they surface and run at flank speed for 90 seconds, they can reposition behind the convoy's turn radius and fire from the destroyer's blind spot. It violates every doctrine. Surfacing during an attack run is suicide. Waterman listens, considers, then gives the most important order of Fluckey's career. Your plan, execute it. Barb surfaces, the diesels scream. 83 seconds later, they're in position. Fluckey fires 3 torpedoes from 1,200 yards. All 3 hit. 2 freighters sink in 4 minutes, 11,000 tons gone. The destroyers never see them. They dive, slip away, and by the time the escorts figure out what happened, Barb is 6 miles east, running silent. Back at Midway, the patrol report causes confusion. The reviewing admiral reads it twice. You surfaced during an attack? Waterman hands the report to Fluckey. He did. It worked. Recommend Lieutenant Commander Fluckey for his own command. On April 27, 1944, Eugene Fluckey assumes command of USS Barb. He's 30 years old. He's captaining a 1,500-ton submarine with 10 torpedo tubes and a crew that's heard rumors about the crazy XO who surfaces during attacks. His first words to the crew are simple. We're going hunting. Anyone afraid of getting close to the enemy should transfer now. Nobody moves. They want to see what happens when this maniac gets his own boat. What happens is Barb's first patrol under Fluckey sinks 4 ships in 11 days. Second patrol, 7 ships. Third patrol, 9 ships, including a Japanese aircraft carrier caught at anchor. In 4 months, Fluckey transforms Barb from a competent boat into the most aggressive submarine in the Pacific Fleet. By September 1944, Fluckey has earned 2 Navy Crosses and a reputation for 3 things: getting close enough to read the name on enemy hulls before firing, never missing a shot, and most importantly, never leaving a man behind. By September 2nd, Fluckey has accounted for 23 enemy ships and 58,000 tons. But nothing compares to what happens next. Dawn, Palau, 15 pilots in the water, Japanese guns zeroed in. This is how he did it. Return to that morning. Fluckey isn't here by accident. A Barb is assigned lifeguard duty, submarine terminology for hover near enemy islands during carrier strikes and pick up downed pilots, if possible. It's supposed to be the safe assignment. Submarines stay submerged. Pilots ditch close to friendly waters. Nobody gets shot at. But the Navy's carrier strike on Palau went wrong. 15 Hellcat pilots got shot down over the harbor. The Japanese pulled back their patrol boats, creating a kill zone, a deliberate trap. Any rescue attempt would require a surface vessel to enter a harbor ringed by coastal artillery. The carrier group radioed the coordinates, then added, "Rescue unlikely. Proceed at your discretion." Fluckey read the message 3 times. Then he walked to the periscope and scanned the cliffs. He counted 8 gun emplacements, maybe 12 machine gun nests. Range, 800 to 1,200 yards. Perfect firing solution for the enemy. Impossible approach for a submarine. His executive officer, Lieutenant Dave Perkins, looked at him. "Skipper, if we surface in there, we're a target range duck." Fluckey nodded. "Correct assessment." He paused. "How long to rig cargo nets on both sides?" Perkins blinked. "You're serious?" Fluckey kept his eyes on the periscope. 15 men are in the water. They flew cover for us yesterday. Today, it's our turn. Rig the nets. We surface in 5 minutes. The preparation was surgical. Fluckey divided his crew into 3 teams. Rescue team topside with cargo nets and boat hooks. Gunnery team manning the 5-inch deck gun and 40mm anti-aircraft mounts. Engineering team below with one job: keep the diesels hot for instant dive if a shell finds them. He calculated approach angles, speed curves, extraction time per pilot. 6 minutes on the surface, maximum. Any longer and Japanese artillery would bracket them. One more detail. Fluckey ordered the radio operator to send one message to the carrier group. "Barb proceeding to pickup. If we don't surface in 10 minutes, assume loss." It wasn't drama, it was math. If something went wrong, command needed to know not to send another submarine into the same trap. The internal decision point happened in silence. Fluckey could follow doctrine, report the pilot's position, withdraw, let someone else make the call. That's what 12 other submarine commanders would have done that month. Or he could surface his boat under enemy guns and trust that speed, chaos, and audacity would buy 6 minutes before the Japanese gunners found their range. The logic was absurd but rational. Submarines survive by being invisible. But if you're already spotted, if the enemy already knows you're there, then the advantage of stealth is gone. At that point, the submarine becomes a very fast, very maneuverable surface ship with one edge. The enemy doesn't expect you to act like one. Fluckey gave the order: surface, all ahead flank. 06:17 hours. Barb breaks the surface 1,100 yards from shore. Water streams off the hull. The diesels roar to life. Fluckey is in the conning tower, binoculars up, scanning for pilots. He spots 3 immediately. Orange life vests bright against dark water, then 6 more, then another cluster of 5. They're scattered across 400 yards of ocean, some barely conscious, some waving frantically. Problem 1. 15 pilots spread across an area the size of 2 football fields. Standard rescue protocol is 1 at a time. Approach, stop, pull aboard, repeat. That'll take 20 minutes. Fluckey has 6. Solution: Fluckey orders a high-speed slalom pattern. Barb will pass each pilot at 12 knots, close enough for the deck crew to snag them with boat hooks and cargo nets. Never stopping. It's insane. It's never been done. But it turns the submarine into a moving pickup point instead of a stationary target. Complication: at 12 knots, the bow wave creates a surge that pushes objects away from the hull. Pilots will bounce off the submarine instead of alongside it. Adaptation: Fluckey angles Barb at 15 degrees to the pilot's position, creating a diagonal approach that channels the bow wave toward the cargo nets instead of away. The deck crew compensates by leaning out with boat hooks, snagging life vests, hauling men aboard like tuna. First pilot aboard, 06:19 hours. Lieutenant James Parker, unconscious, swallowed half the ocean. 2 crewmen drag him through the forward hatch. No time for medical checks. Next pilot is 40 yards ahead. 06:20 hours. Japanese artillery opens fire. The first shell lands 60 yards short. Waterspout erupts like a geyser. Fluckey doesn't change course. Second shell lands 30 yards to starboard. They're ranging in. Fluckey keys the intercom. Gunnery, return fire. Don't aim for effect. Aim for distraction. Barb's 5-inch deck gun opens up. The gun crew isn't trying to hit the coastal emplacements. They're outranged and outgunned. But every muzzle flash and explosion on the cliffs makes the Japanese gunners flinch. They recalculate, slow their fire rate. It buys seconds. Second and third pilots aboard. 6:21 hours. Ensign Robert Chandler and Lieutenant Frank Williams, both alert, both hypothermic. Chandler shouts something Fluckey can't hear over the diesels. Williams points south. More pilots. Problem 2. The rescue pattern is pulling Barb deeper into the harbor, closer to shore, tighter into the artillery's kill zone. The next cluster of pilots is 700 yards from the beach. Maximum effective range for Japanese 120mm guns. 15,000 yards. Barb is now well inside their comfort zone. Solution? Fluckey orders a figure 8 pattern. Approach the pilots on a shallow curve. Extract them, then arc back toward open water before swinging in for the next group. It keeps Barb moving laterally, harder to track, harder to bracket. Complication. The figure 8 pattern doubles the distance traveled, eating into the 6-minute window. Fluckey recalculates. 4 minutes left. 9 pilots still in the water. Adaptation. He tightens the curves, pushes speed to 15 knots. The deck crew is now working at the edge of their balance. Sea spray hammering them, cargo nets whipping in the wind. One sailor nearly goes overboard, reaching for a pilot. Another sailor grabs his belt, hauls him back. 6:22 hours. 4th, 5th, and 6th pilots aboard. Machine gun fire from the beach rakes the water 50 yards to port. Tracer rounds arc overhead like angry fireflies. Fluckey orders evasive zigzag. Barb slaloms between pilot clusters. Problem 3. The remaining pilots are exhausted, hypothermic, some barely conscious. They can't grab the nets. The deck crew has to lean further out, expose themselves more, reach into the water while the submarine is moving at 15 knots and enemy fire is walking closer. Solution: Fluckey slows to 8 knots for each pickup, just enough to maintain steerage, slow enough for the crew to grab and haul. Then he guns it back to 15 knots between pickups. It's a rhythm: fast, slow, grab, fast, slow, grab. Complication: the speed changes create a handling nightmare. Barb wallows in the turns, loses momentum, becomes a better target each time she slows. Japanese gunners adjust. The next shell lands 20 yards off the starboard bow. Adaptation: Fluckey stops slowing down. Instead, he tells the deck crew to use the boat hooks like lacrosse sticks. Snag the pilot's vest at full speed. Let momentum swing them alongside the hull. Then haul them up the cargo net while Barb is still moving. It's brutal. It's dangerous. It works. 6:23 hours. 7th, 8th, 9th pilots aboard. Japanese artillery finds the range. A shell hits the water 15 yards to stern. Shrapnel pings off the conning tower. Fluckey feels the pressure wave in his chest. 1 minute left before he has to abort. Problem 4. The last 6 pilots are clustered together. Good for extraction efficiency, bad because they're 650 yards from shore, directly in line with the largest artillery emplacement. If Fluckey approaches, the Japanese gunners will have a stationary target at optimal range. Solution: Fluckey doesn't approach. He overshoots the pilot cluster by 100 yards, then throws Barb into a hard reverse turn. The submarine swings sideways, momentum carrying the stern toward the pilots, while the bow points toward open water. The deck crew works from the afterdeck. It's a bootlegger's reverse, submarine style. Complication: the reverse turn kills forward speed. Barb is now moving at 3 knots, almost stationary, exactly what Fluckey wanted to avoid. The diesels scream, trying to pull them out of the turn. Adaptation: Fluckey orders the forward torpedo tubes flooded. 7,000 pounds of seawater into the bow. It drops the nose, lifts the stern, gives the screws better bite. Barb accelerates out of the turn while the deck crew hauls aboard 4 pilots in 30 seconds. 24 hours. 13 pilots aboard, 2 left. Japanese fire is continuous now. Shells bracket Barb on 3 sides. Machine gun fire stitches the water. Shrapnel holes appear in the conning tower fairwater. The last 2 pilots are 200 yards apart. No time for 2 passes. Fluckey splits the difference, angles Barb between them, and orders deck crews to both sides. The submarine threads between the pilots at 10 knots. Port side crew snags one. Starboard side crew snags the other. 25 hours. 15 pilots aboard. Fluckey keys the intercom. Dive, dive, dive. The deck crew scrambles below. The gun crews abandon their stations. Hatches slam shut. But Barb doesn't dive. Not yet. At 15 knots, she needs sea room to maneuver away from the cliffs before she can safely submerge without risking the dive planes hitting bottom. Problem 5. The fastest escape route is directly away from shore. But that puts Barb's stern, the weakest armor point, facing the artillery. If a shell hits the stern, it'll punch through the after torpedo room and likely detonate the warhead stored there. Solution. Fluckey angles Barb 30 degrees to port, presenting the narrow bow profile instead of the broad stern. It's a longer escape route, but it minimizes the target. Complication: the turn eats precious seconds. Japanese artillery walks its fire along the turn arc. A shell lands 10 yards to starboard. Another hits 5 yards to port. They're bracketed. Adaptation. Fluckey orders emergency speed. The engineering crew pushes the diesels past redline, trading engine life for speed. Barb surges to 18 knots. The next Japanese shell lands where Barb was 3 seconds ago. 6:27 hours. Barb clears the 1,200-yard line. Fluckey orders the dive. The vents blow. Seawater floods the ballast tanks. Barb's bow dips. The ocean swallows them in 18 seconds. At 60 feet, the Japanese artillery can't touch them. At 100 feet, Fluckey orders all stop. Silence. The crew listens. No depth charges, no destroyers. The Japanese lost their shot. In the forward torpedo room, 15 soaking wet pilots lie on the deck, shivering, coughing up seawater, alive. One of them, Lieutenant Parker, the first pulled aboard, looks at Fluckey and asks, "Do you do this often?" Fluckey smiles. "First time. Let's not make it a habit." By 0800 hours, Barb is 30 miles east of Palau, running submerged at 100 feet. The 15 pilots are wrapped in blankets, drinking coffee, telling their stories. 4 have minor shrapnel wounds. 2 have hypothermia. All 15 are alive. 0 casualties on Barb. Fluckey composes the patrol report. He lists the rescue timeline. 8 minutes on the surface. 1,437 yards traveled under fire. 15 pilots extracted. He notes damage. 17 shrapnel holes in the fairwater. 1 cracked periscope lens. Diesels overheated but functional. He closes with, "Respectfully submit that lifeguard duty executed successfully." When the report reaches Pearl Harbor, Admiral Charles Lockwood reads it, standing up. He calls his staff into the office. "Read this. Tell me if I'm hallucinating." They read it. They're not hallucinating. Lockwood immediately recommends Fluckey for the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty." The story spreads through the submarine fleet in 48 hours. Other skippers start calling it the Palau pickup. It becomes the new standard. If there are pilots in the water, you surface and get them. Fluckey didn't just save 15 men. He rewrote the doctrine. The 15 pilots return to their carrier. Every single one requests to fly cover for Barb's next patrol. The Navy denies the requests, too much risk concentrating assets, But the pilots send Fluckey a hand-drawn cartoon showing a submarine shaped like a taxi with Barb's pickup service painted on the side. Fluckey keeps it in his stateroom for the rest of the war. January 23, 1945. Barb is on her 11th patrol, hunting off the coast of China. Fluckey has run out of torpedoes. Standard procedure: return to base, rearm, come back. But Fluckey spots a Japanese convoy anchored in Namquan Harbor. 16 ships, 30,000 tons. To sitting still. The problem? No torpedoes, no way to attack. Except Fluckey has an idea that's either brilliant or insane. What if we go ashore and blow them up from land? He assembles an 8-man commando team. They paddle ashore in a rubber raft at 0200 hours. They locate the railroad tracks supplying the harbor. They plant 55 pounds of C2 explosives under the tracks. They set the timer for 40 minutes. They paddle back. 0343 hours. The explosives detonate under a 16-car ammunition train. The explosion is visible from 20 miles at sea. The train's payload, artillery shells, aircraft bombs, small arms ammunition, detonates in a chain reaction. The blast levels 3 warehouses and sets fire to 2 docked freighters. Barb escapes submerged, no casualties. First and only ground combat operation, executed by a U.S.I. submarine crew in World War II. Fluckey's report notes, resourcefulness is the best weapon when conventional weapons are exhausted. The Navy awards him a 4th Navy Cross. But more importantly, it proves the Palau Rescue wasn't luck. It was Fluckey's operating philosophy. The rulebook is a starting point. The mission defines the method. Fluckey survives the war. Barb survives the war. Between them, they account for 17 confirmed ships sunk and 71,000 tons of enemy shipping destroyed. The highest tonnage for any U.S. submarine in World War II. Fluckey receives the Medal of Honor in a White House ceremony. President Truman asks him, "Did you really surface under artillery fire?" Fluckey nods. Truman shakes his head. "You submariners are crazier than Marines." After the war, Fluckey commands 3 more submarines. Serves as Director of Naval Intelligence and retires as a Rear Admiral in 1972. He never capitalizes on his fame. No book deals, no lecture tours, no public appearances. He returns to Annapolis and teaches engineering, submarines, tactics, problem solving. His students remember one lecture he gave every semester. He'd draw a submarine on the chalkboard. Then he'd draw a circle around it representing enemy guns. Then he'd ask, "What do you do?" Students would suggest diving, evasion, countermeasures. Fluckey would nod. Then he'd erase the submarine and draw it inside the circle, closer to the guns. "What do you do now?" The students would go quiet. Fluckey would smile. "You do the thing they don't expect. That's the only advantage you'll ever have." In 1995, at age 81, Fluckey attended a reunion of the 15 pilots he pulled from Palau. Only 7 were still alive. They presented him with a plaque. "To the man who taught us that Navy rescues Navy." Fluckey looked at it and said, "I didn't rescue you. I picked you up. There's a difference. Rescue implies you couldn't save yourselves. You already survived the shootdown. I just gave you a ride." Some things you never stop being. Eugene Bennett Fluckey died June 28, 2007, at age 93 in Annapolis, Maryland. Cause natural causes. He's buried in the United States Naval Academy Cemetery, Section 8, grave 3824. The headstone lists his rank, his Medal of Honor, and one line, "Barb, the galloping ghost of the China coast." USS Barb was decommissioned in 1954 and later scrapped. But her conning tower was preserved and now stands at the Naval Submarine Base, New London in Groton, Connecticut. The memorial plaque reads, "In memory of the 52 U.S. submarines and over 3,500 submariners lost during World War II, and in honor of those who brought them home. 2 submarines have been named Barb in Fluckey's honor. The latest, SSN 596, served from 1963 to 1989. When she was decommissioned, her crew requested one tradition. Every January 23rd, the anniversary of the China Railroad raid, they gather and toast to audacity. Fluckey is remembered in submarine circles, forgotten almost everywhere else. The Medal of Honor Society lists his action. The Naval War College teaches his tactics. But most Americans have never heard the name Eugene Fluckey. Most don't know that 15 pilots survived Palau because one submarine commander decided doctrine was negotiable. Some stories don't fit on headstones. There are 2 ways to tell this story. The legend version says Fluckey was reckless, a cowboy commander who gambled with 80 lives to save 15. It says he got lucky. The Japanese gunners could have hit Barb in the first 30 seconds. The diesels could have failed. One well-placed shell and everyone dies. The documented record says Fluckey calculated every variable: speed, distance, artillery range, extraction time. It says he turned chaos into geometry and geometry into survival. It says the pilots lived because Fluckey saw a problem everyone else called unsolvable and decided to solve it anyway. Both are true. Both are remarkable. But here's what matters. Every submarine commander that morning received the same message. Pilots down. Rescue unlikely. Your discretion. 12 submarines were in the area. 11 commanders followed doctrine: report position, withdraw, preserve the boat. 1 commander surfaced under fire. The difference wasn't skill. Every submarine commander was skilled. The difference wasn't courage. Every submarine commander was courageous. The difference was the decision pattern. The other commanders asked, "What's the rulebook move?" Fluckey asked, "What's the right move?" Right doesn't always mean safe. Right doesn't always mean smart. But right means this: when people need help and you can provide it, doctrine becomes optional. Fluckey had a phrase he used in every patrol briefing. There are old submariners and bold submariners, but no old, bold submariners. It's true most of the time, but sometimes, very rarely, you meet someone who's both. Someone who calculates the risk and takes it anyway. Someone who looks at the impossible and says, "Yes, but how?" The story isn't about submarines or artillery or geometry. The story is simpler. 15 men were drowning. 1 man decided that was unacceptable. Everything else was just tactics. Fluckey's own words from his last interview in 2004. People ask if I was scared that morning. Of course I was scared. Fear isn't the enemy. Inaction is. The question isn't whether you're afraid. The question is, what are you willing to do while afraid? Some questions don't need answers. They need examples.